Hello, I'm Dr. Allison Bremner. Thank you for coming tonight. This is the Big Idea Talk, my absolute favorite talk to give. And so you're probably wondering why I would ask you to come to a talk like this. Some of you under care, some of you brought people that you think might be a good candidate for care, and some of you are thinking about starting care. So typically, the very first question I ask all my new patients is, what are you looking for as far as your health is concerned? And so that's kind of an interesting question because typically they say, well, doc, I just want my migraines to go away, or I want my fibromyalgia to go away, or whatever symptom they came in with, they really want to just get out of pain. That's typically the initial reaction. And so I kind of dive a little bit more into that because I said, you know, if you really wanted to just get out of pain, you go down to the bar, have some shots, tequila, I guarantee you, you'd be out of pain. But, you know, we talk a little more, and typically it's more than just pain. And I say, well, that's not what I mean. You know, what I want to do is be able to get out of pain so that I can do whatever it is. Some people that's playing with their grandkids. Some people that's going snowboarding. It really depends. But typically people start to lose their function of life, and that's when they want to do something about their health. Okay? So tonight we're going to talk about health and wellness, what that means, some misconceptions that are, you know, around, especially in America, what health means. And so typically, you know, if someone says, are you healthy? How are you doing? If you don't have symptoms, you would say, I'm doing great. I feel healthy. I'm well. And if you're looking at a lot of the TV ads these days, you know, Walgreens a lot of times promotes wellness. Get your wellness card, your wellness whatever. If you actually go down to Walgreens, I guarantee those people online, not super healthy, not really well. So our concept of wellness and health is a little bit skewed. A lot of times we think of symptoms. If I do not have a symptom, that means I'm healthy. It must mean I'm doing great. On the flip end, you know, if you're having symptoms, that must mean that you're sick and you should do something about it. Well, I want to kind of give you two examples about how those two things may or may not be the truth. So let's say we all got Chinese food. It's family style. We all eat chow mein. Everyone shares the food. We all go home. And so there happened to be a little bit of a bug in there, okay? And let's say you guys go home and you actually throw up and get technically sick. And I go home and actually I don't throw up at all. I don't really have that many symptoms. Who actually is sick? This is the time we're going to interact a little bit. So who's sick, me or you?
Oh.
Both.
Good guesses. So actually, you guys responded correctly. Your body was healthy enough to understand that it needed to get that stuff out of you. So what happened is I felt kind of crappy a little bit for a long time, and that stuff festered inside me, and I really wasn't doing the correct response. So you got quote-unquote sick, but the thing is you're actually expressing health. That's what I talk about a lot of times, expressing health. So if you took a bunch of medicine to stop yourself from throwing up, that actually would be the wrong idea, right? Because your body was, you know, I know that throwing up is not fun, but that's actually the correct response. And so that's a time where a symptom is actually meaning you're healthy. Now let's flip it over to where you're not having any symptoms, but you may be a little bit sick. So, a heart attack. Does anyone know the first symptom of a heart attack? Depends. Usually what they feel. What do you, when someone's saying I have a heart attack?
Tightness in the chest or pain down an arm.
Pain down the arm, maybe like crushing pain, could be blurred vision, something like that. But they're actually having the heart attack, right? At that moment. Or pretty soon they're going to be having the heart attack.
Right.
Something's happening. But I guarantee you, if you looked at that heart a day or 2 days before, would it be healthy? Even if they weren't having a symptom?
No.
Probably not. So my point of that is that even though they were not having a symptom until they actually had the heart attack, they probably had some heart disease. And so they actually were sick. So just because you're having a symptom does not mean you're necessarily well. On the flip end, if you're not having a symptom, doesn't mean necessarily that's what you should be, you know, you're healthy. So we're going to get a little more into that later. So really, health is very simple, and sometimes we try to make it very, very complicated. So really you need 5 things to be healthy. You need proper rest, you need good nutrition, you need exercise, a positive mental attitude, and proper neurological function. The 5th one we'll talk about it a little bit more. And so those simple things, your body is really a machine. If you're putting the right stuff in and doing the right things, it's going to function the way it should, okay? And so those are really important things to think about. So let's talk about health and its definition. So I actually looked up, you know, in the dictionary what health is, because we talk about symptoms. But if you didn't look in the Webster Dictionary, Health is actually a condition of wholeness in which all the organs are functioning at 100% of the time. No talking there about symptoms whatsoever. And if you look in the Dorland's medical dictionary, it says health is a state of optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease. So these are the actual definitions of health, but we've kind of skewed into thinking that it's merely symptoms and not your overall well-being. So let's do some basic physiology tests now. All right, you guys ready? So what controls everything in your body? What's the master control system?
The brain?
The brain. Boom, front row. You're the good student sitting in the front row. The brain, exactly. And your brain and your nervous system, more specifically. So does it control some, none, or all of your functions in your body?
All.
All. Exactly. Every single thing from, moving your fingers and your toes to everything you don't think about, your heart function, your lung function. So that sheet that I gave all of you guys has a printout of all the wonderful things that your nervous system does. Lots of different stuff. Okay? So if we're saying that the nervous system controls everything in the body, I'm going to do a simple analogy about, or a drawing. You're going to see my wonderful drawing skills right now. So think of your whole nervous system as a safety pin like this. Okay? This being your brain and this being a cell. I'm going to try to draw for you the best I can. So this is the top here. Okay? So basically how your body works is your brain, the master control system up here, communicates with every cell in your body. Okay? And so what happens on a normal functioning nervous system is the brain says, let's say it's the stomach. Stomach, do your thing. The stomach talks back, and they send messages back and forth to and from the brain. When it's working correctly, all your body works the way it's supposed to. Okay? And that looks like this. So let's talk about what I normally see in the office. What happens when someone does not have a properly functioning nervous system? So we're going to call this person Jane. So this is Jane. And you're going to see my wonderful, I will draw it first, and then I'll tell you what it is in case you couldn't guess. Okay. So that is Jane's stomach. Yeah? I thought you guys would guess. It's like Pictionary. Okay. So we're going to draw an imaginary line here. You don't have this line actually in your body, but for our purposes, it's going to be really important. This line here is, I also can't spell, so I really had to focus on that. This is a symptom line. So for our purposes, Jane does not feel anything unless it goes over this line, and then Jane feels a symptom, okay? So we're going to talk about Jane. Like most Americans, Jane likes to go out and eat some food, and sometimes it's not necessarily the most healthy food, and sometimes it is. So Jane had a little bit of an accident, maybe a car accident, maybe a slip and fall, but basically something happened here. Or her safety pin got opened. So what that means is the communication from her brain to her cell, which we're going to call the stomach cell for this example, is not communicating correctly. And so what happens is the brain says, hey Jane, I want you to make some acid in your stomach every time you digest some food. So Jane goes out to eat some food, the stomach starts to make some acid here, boom, boom, boom. So the stomach is the appropriate response, right? Grinding up all that food for Jane. So the stomach says, okay, brain, we've made the acid, we've digested all the food, but the signal never gets to the brain. And so the brain's up there, waiting a little while, says, man, this stomach is pretty lazy. What the heck's going on? I haven't heard from him in 2 hours. Stomach, make some more acid. Get double time this time, because obviously you're slacking. So the stomach just says, you're in charge, so I'm going to go ahead and make some more acid, make some more acid. Now, what is Jane feeling? What's that called? What symptom is that called?
Heartburn?
Heartburn. Yeah. So Jane's like, oh, I'm not feeling super excellent. So Jane, being the wonderful American, who does she consult for medical advice?
Online.
Online or TV, that magical black box, right? Jane's going to go to the store and get some little Tums, right? So that's Jane's first intervention that she does here. Tums actually neutralizes the acid. Takes a couple Tums. Jane's feeling good, right? Has Jane done anything to correct her actual problem?
No.
No. So Jane takes some Tums, and guess what? It works for a little bit. Acid starts to creep up again. Now Jane's taking Tums every single night, 2 or 3. Jane thinks, well, this is not very economical going to the store and buying my Tums, so I better go to Costco and get the big size. I bet if 2 Tums won't work, I bet you 10 will. So Jane's popping things like candy, just eating them. She's actually eating Tums before she even eats anything, because every time that she has food, she's having this symptom, okay? And so what happens is she takes like 10 Tums, works for a little bit. Gotta redraw that symptom line. Works for a little bit. And what do you think happens? How long does that last for? Have you ever read the back of these things? Please take 1 to 2 every 3 hours. So it tells you on the bottle, it's a temporary solution. So it's not meant to be a long-lasting health solution, right?
Right.
So Jane gets kind of sick of this. She's having more and more acid. So what's Jane's next step? She's going to need something stronger. So what is she thinking about doing?
Going to the doctor?
Not quite yet, because Jane wants to solve this on her own. It's expensive to go to the doctor, right? So Jane thinks that Larry the cable guy is pretty smart. And, he loves America. So he's going to advise her to take some Prilosec OTC. So this is like the strongest thing that you can do on your own, right? So what do you think happens here? Jane takes this stuff and she's like, oh, Larry's right. It's helping me for a little bit. That's going to last for, maybe a month or so. So that solution seemed good for her for a while. But guess what? Not working. And now, not only is Jane having this symptom here, but girls' night out, she can't go anymore. She can't drink wine anymore. She's kind of pissed off because she's starting to have to change her life. She's trying to change the way she's eating. She's trying to avoid all these types of things. So when something interferes with your life, then what do?
Seek help.
Seek help. So who does Jane call?
Doctor.
A doctor. What kind of doctor?
Primary care.
A primary care physician. Exactly. So Jane says, well, I'm going to need some outside help because I don't know what to do. This is past my means. I've tried everything I can. So what's that interaction look like, do you think?
5 minutes and he writes a prescription for her.
Probably 5 minutes. I guarantee you that, he or she probably has read the chart. The nurse practitioner comes in, takes the vitals. Jane, what's going on? Writes symptoms down. Oh, you're having heartburn, blah, 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 blah. Doctor picks it up. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. Probably writes the script before even talks to Jane, says, Jane, I have your solution right here. Okay, good to see you. You're doing great. So Jane says, thanks, doc. Taking the pills. And guess what? This lasts for quite a bit of time. So Jane does her intervention of prescription medication, right? So Jane's pretty happy with the result. But has Jane done anything to correct the communication from her brain to her body?
No.
Nothing's been done, right? So temporarily, this is helping. And guess what? It's coming back. It's coming back. And not only is it coming back, it is nasty. It's all over the place. Jane is kind of upset. She's thinking, what the heck's going on? I go to this doctor. They give me this medication. It works for a little bit. Doesn't really help. So Jane goes back to the MD, primary care physician, and the doctor comes in and says, Jane, I think you need to go see a specialist, someone who knows a whole bunch about a little bit, very small part of the body. So Jane says, okay, doc, whatever you say, this is feeling terrible. So she wants to go see someone who's going to know a lot about the stomach. So what tests do they do? She's going to be putting a camera down into the tummy. Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that going to look like down there?
Gnarly.
Pretty gnarly. That's a great word. Yes, it's looking gnarly. So the doctor says, holy smokes, Jane, You've got all kinds of stuff going on there, gastritis, you may even be precancerous. We're going to need to do some kind of surgery. Jane says, okay. You know what, Doc? I don't really want surgery. Doc says, well, that's your only option. So you can either learn to live with it or we're going to have surgery. And so Jane knows that there's a lot of complications in surgery. No surgery is a simple surgery. They got to put you down and under. And so Jane had this crazy friend named Sarah. So Sarah's a patient of mine. Sarah had asthma. And she came in, and she's been a great patient. She went to all the big idea classes. She came in, did care, and Sarah got better, no longer has asthma. So Jane was talking to Sarah and said, you know, I really don't want to have this surgery. And Sarah says, well, you should go see this crazy doctor. They adjust you up here, do some kind of thing, and I got better. Jane says, that sounds crazy. You're telling me that they're going to do something up here, and it's going to help down here? No way. Sarah says, well, then I guess you can get the surgery. Jane says, hold on. Okay, what do I have to lose? I'm miserable. There's nothing I can do right now that's helping. Anything to avoid surgery, absolutely. So Jane comes into my office. I say, holy smokes, Jane, your nervous system is not functioning. Your safety pin is out. So what we do here in the office is we fix that safety pin. Boom, just like that. And very slowly, Jane starts to heal. Now, Jane's coming in and she's getting checked, and if we're doing adjustments sometimes when it's open, and then when it's closed, we just leave her alone because she's healing. Now, Jane's doing great. Is she healing?
Yeah, she's starting to.
Starting to heal, right? Does she feel better?
Not
No.
yet.
No, she does not feel better. So Jane keeps coming in, and guess what? Most of the time, she's not having to be adjusted. Sometimes she is. And is Jane getting better?
Gradually.
Is she feeling better?
No.
No. So Jane comes back, right? In a couple of weeks, and she says, Doc, you know, it's great I'm not having to be adjusted, but I don't feel better yet. And I said, Jane, remember when you came to the big idea class and we talked about how this is going to take a long time? Jane says, oh, that's right. So my body's healing, but I don't quite feel better yet. That's right, Jane. And so Jane says, okay, I'm going to stick with it for a little bit longer. So Jane sticks with it for a little bit longer. She's doing great. Okay. So now does Jane start to feel better?
Yes.
Yeah, she's feeling better. Is she well?
No.
No. So what would happen if Jane were to stop care right now?
It'll just get back worse.
Probably get back. Exactly. So Jane, again, since she understands care, understands that she needs to keep to see that this is checked. So my whole goal is to check you and never adjust you. Unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time in the beginning. If you're a patient, if you just started, you know that you need to be adjusted a little bit more. If you've been a patient for a while, you know that you come in maybe once a month, maybe every other month, just to get checked. And so what happens is, very slowly, Jane gets well. Now, Jane is pretty happy with this result, but guess what? How long did this take?
Several months.
Probably several months. For each person, it's different. Now, the thing that's really cool about your body is how long do you think Jane was sick for? How long did this take to get her sick? Long time, little time?
Long time.
Long time, maybe even years. But your body is so amazing that even though this may have taken 1-2 years for Jane to get sick, it only took her a couple months to get better because your body wants to heal. It wants to be better. It just needs the right communication from your brain, the right stuff that you're putting in your body, all the stuff to happen at the same time, and then you can be well. So, Jane is an awesome story, but let's talk about a little more of the dynamic of this office. So how the heck do I fix your safety pin? So we do very, very specific adjustments to the top of the neck right here. It's not snap, crackle, pop. I'm not looking to make as much noise and rip your head around and hoping it pops. I don't care if it pops or does not pop. That's not the adjustment. I care if your neurological system is functioning. So I use an infrared thermography to check your brainstem function to see if you even need to be adjusted. That's how we put you back in. So when you're in, and I scan you and you don't need to be adjusted, I get really excited. I usually do a high five. I'm stoked on it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for you guys to get excited about it because you're like, but you don't, I want you to do something. The thing is, if you're functioning, if this safety pin is closed and I give you an adjustment, what's the only thing I can do to you?
Make it worse.
Traumatizing it.
Make you sick. Exactly. So if you're functioning the way you should, I don't want to make you sick. I want to keep you well. So let's talk about the number one thing I get asked the most in this office is why 2 bones? Why do you adjust up here? Especially when they hear I'm a chiropractor. You're a chiropractor? My back hurts. Adjust my back. You know, it's like the number one thing I hear, right? So the reason why that I deal with these top 2 bones have nothing to do with anything except for their neurological input to the brain. So these top 2 bones, this is your C1 and your C2, they're very, very special the way that they're made up. So there's no disc in between these guys, and they can actually do a 360. The only thing stopping them is muscles, tendons, and ligaments, so soft tissue. So the reason why they're so susceptible to an injury is because through like a whiplash or like some sort of trauma, that soft tissue gets torn up in there, the scar tissue builds up. I'm going to give you an extreme example. Who knows who Superman was? Yeah? What was his name, his real name?
Oh, Christopher Reeves?
Christopher Reeves. Exactly. Exactly. Does anyone know what happened to Christopher Reeves?
Fell off a horse?
Fell off a horse and he broke
I don't know, C2, C3? C1?
number 1. This guy right here. And he actually was kind of lucky. And the reason why he was lucky, it was a burst fracture, meaning that this bursted out. Had it come in, it severed his cord, he'd be dead immediately. What happened is he had so much swelling around that brainstem is that he lost what function? Anyone know? What happened to him afterwards?
Sight.
Breathing.
He was in a wheelchair.
He was in a wheelchair.
That's all motor function.
All motor
sensory
function.
And the ability to breathe.
Exactly. We'll see. Smarty pants there. So not just did he lose his ability to move his arms and legs, he couldn't breathe on his own. His heart couldn't beat on its own. He actually couldn't digest his food on his own. Everything regulatory function. You see that chart you guys have there? Has everything that talks about the nervous system. Nothing functioned the way it should. Did he actually have a heart problem or a lung problem?
Mm-mm.
No, he had all communication gone. So his brain could not communicate with his body. So if you looked at his foot, there was actually nothing wrong with the muscles, right? There was something wrong with the neurological connection, what's happening. Now that's an extreme example. Obviously, he had a traumatic injury. But imagine a smaller injury to the same area. Do you think that have effect on all functions of your body?
Yeah.
Probably so. Remember back to the very first question, what controls everything in your body? Your nervous system. So the reason why I talk about Christopher Reeves, it's a very good example about how something that is very top up here can control everything else. Now, last question, does anyone know what he actually died from? He had an infection, yeah?
Yep.
Simple staph infection.
Yep.
Probably you or I be sick for a little bit. But since he didn't have the communication to and from the brain, his immune system didn't function the way it should either. So the same thing, your nervous system not only controls like your heart and your lungs, but also your entire immune system and how that functions together. So when I get sick or feel like a little bit something coming on, the first thing I do is get checked to see if I need to be adjusted, because it also controls how your immune system is functioning. So every single thing in your body, okay? So we're going to wrap this up here in just a little bit. But basically, the big picture of this, the reason why we call it the big idea, is because this care is not just about getting you out of pain. It's about restoring you back to your life and what you have lost. And so many patients I have in this office, they were told either you're just going to have to live with it, there's nothing we can do about it, or there's nothing wrong with you, which is kind of the scary one because sometimes people think it's all in their head. They've had CAT scans, they've had MRIs, they've had all these tests, and they're always negative, so they don't know what's going on with them. But they've never had their neurological system checked as far as your brainstem and how that's controlling your regulatory function. So the reason why I do this class is not only to educate patients that are under care right now about what to expect, but I also have it to invite other people so they can understand what we're trying to do in the office. Also, there's one of me, there's a lot more of you. I really want to help people. I hear these horror stories all the time about people getting sick. In this office, I hear amazing stories about how people get well. And I just want more people to get well than to be sick. So if anyone that you know has some sort of issue that seems to get worse and worse, like Jane did, it doesn't have to be stomach. It can be anything. slowly getting worse and they don't know why, please send them in at least to get checked to see if something's going on. If you guys haven't been checked already, I have a scanner and I'd be more than happy to just do a free little scan on you to see how you're doing. Thank you so much for tonight. And now is for any questions. You guys were a fantastic interactive audience. So any questions tonight about care?
Yeah, what are some of the, some examples of some things that you've seen and were able to fix?
That's a great, and before you guys leave, I'm going to give you these little flyers. So we did a video testimonial contest here. The video testimonial contests have 80 different, you can have one I think, Cole, but there you go. 80 different videos of different things that people basically got helped with. And so migraines, vertigo, fibromyalgia, things are just like weird sensations. So sometimes people just, I feel chronically tired, maybe chronic fatigue. Sometimes it seems like neuropathies kind of situations, different things that are happening. So it really is all over the board. So that website, if you want to go on and take a look, it's www.livelife.thespecific.com. Amazing stories on there. If you're inspired by any of them, please vote for your favorite because right now it's a contest. So we're sending the person with the most votes to a cruise, actually. So in the Boulder office, we have 10 of those videos. So each office we're about 10 videos and we compile them together. Are really, really amazing stories. People that are really sick and now they're doing great. So that's the best resource if you want to view some videos. But, really across the board, I see lots of different neurological problems. Great question. Anything else?
Why don't more people know about upper cervical care? It seems like, why aren't doctors, more often referring patients for upper cervical?
That's another great question. The reason why I do this class is hopefully to get more people aware of it. In all fairness, as far as the chiropractic side goes, not all schools teach upper cervical. And honestly, most of the West Coast schools and the East Coast schools teach upper cervical, which is why I have patients flying from Oklahoma, from Ohio, different places here, because there are not very many offices in the middle of the country. Honestly, I just think that there's just not enough information out there. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar budget like the pharmaceutical companies. I wish we did. I would love to throw some nice ads on there. Honestly, it's the money. We don't have the big budget, so it's kind of grassroots stuff like this. Hopefully with this video, I'll probably also put it on the internet, so just to get more people exposed to it. But I wish more people did know, so help us spread the word. Any other questions? Yes. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Crystal.
Crystal.
Is this the only office in Colorado, or are there others?
There's one more office that I know of in Littleton. His name is Mark D. Mister. Actually, that's who checks me. So Mark, I went to school with him, and he's fantastic. I don't know of another office in Colorado. So that's why I have a lot of people come from the Springs or from up north or, from Golden, those type of places. People travel a lot, and that's the reason why, is there's just not as many. I would love to get an associate in a couple of years so that, we can get more and more people trained. That's really one of our goals at the Specific, is to really get as many docs to more offices and more places so that at least in every state we like to have one. In California, we have a bunch of offices. So, anything else? No? Okay. Thanks, guys.